Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
So if I could just put everything on YouTube, I would. And you just have to subscribe and be a member on YouTube and you can get everything. But YouTube is very censoring. Like it's not, they censor a lot. It's not a place where you can have adult conversations, not a place where you can show blood and shooting and murders and stuff like that. And that's a big part of true crime. So I have to put that on the Patreon. So that's the difference between a Patreon and a membership. The Patreon is rated R. The membership is this content is suitable for all audiences. There you go. I think I explained it the best way I've ever explained it. I hope you guys get that. All right, so let's jump into it because we're not going to be here forever. Once again, got to go to work. So there's a lot of things I have to do. And so what are we going to start with? Let's see what we're going to start with. Let's start with Jays for Justice, okay? We're going to be using her content, so please check out Jay for Justice. I'll definitely put a link in the description for this video here. From that link, if you decide to subscribe, you go ahead and do that. But please do show her love. And because I'm using a snippet of her content, let her get some views, you know, help her out because she put this together. It's her intellectual work. We want to make sure that she gets credit for it, okay? That being said, let's bring it over here. Oh, unfortunately, I'm kind of like covering her up. I'm gonna move myself over just so you can see what she looks like. And then I'm gonna move myself back, okay? I think that's fair. That's nice of me. All right, so that's me on that side. And that's Jay for Justice in the corner. You guys see what she looks like. So now I'm gonna put myself back because I like being in that corner. It's my, comfortable there. Okay, boom. All right, let's listen.
And there was some issue about one YouTuber who called out Chris as a liar because he said he saw a picture on the phone.
Yeah, much later, I'm having a conversation again, thinking I'm having a private conversation with the deputy.
Right. So I think I started just a little bit too forward. I want you to get contents for that. All right. We get some context for that.
Back in July.
But I have found ads in his personal items advertising pornographic videos, dildos, etc. Oh, who is Pooh? Will Pooh make herself known? I would love to know who Pooh is. Pooh, if you're out there. Pooh. Didn't Stern say, oh, she poo-pooed the idea? Now, one last time, y'all. Take it all in.
And there was some issue about one YouTuber who called out Chris as a liar because he said he saw a picture on the phone.
Yeah, much later, I'm having a conversation again, thinking I'm having.
All right, so the reason why I wanted to play this, and I'm going to play it out, well, I'm going to let it play it out a couple more minutes, just a couple more seconds so you guys could get the context for why I wanted to actually highlight this and play this. Big shout out to Trisha B with a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much for supporting the channel.
Having a private conversation with the deputies back in July. And, Jen that evening had provided some very graphic detail of the image. She told me in her story was that there was a group of photos that they had downloaded off it.
Hey, bad actors.
Phone. They wanted to show these images, this package of images to Jennifer. She said that she couldn't.
Package of images. His wording is awful. I'm sorry. And look at the mom. Look at Deborah. He's got his hands up this package of images. Look at Dr. John. You can't see Dr. John. Images. Ew.
See them, but agreed to look at one. Then she shared with me in graphic detail what that image was. 5 months later, I'm thinking throughout that time that she had the opportunity to maybe grab a photo of that, and because once you describe that to me, I can't get it out of my mind. It becomes ingrained and printed, and I'm thinking that there's an image in my mind that I must have seen a photo,
All right, so we'll stop it right there real quick. So I believe this is it's not that I believe, because we actually had this conversation off of camera, of course. There was communications that I told you guys I was going to interview the Sterns, and then I pulled out, and we did have conversations behind the scenes. And I believe this is the reason why they decided to reach out to me. I did not reach out to the Sterns. They decided to reach out to me, is because of what they just said. I believe that in this instance, they're talking about the Strategic Eyes show. And the reason why I believe that in this instance, they're talking about the Strategic Eyes show is because of this video that I made that I'm going to put on the screen right now. Check this one out. Chris Stearns has a conversation with the detective, one of the lead detectives, and he says, listen, when I was in the car with Jen Soto, man, he got me defending Jen Soto. Wow. He said, when I was in the car with Jen Soto, she showed me, mind you, he never spoke about this before. Now he's talking about it. She showed me a video of Maddie, and then I think they redacted it, if I'm not mistaken. But based off of the follow-up statements and what the detective said, clearly Chris Stearns, in my opinion, said that it was a piece of CSAM. It was Maddie in a compromising position or somebody doing something to Maddie. And he said, well, she had that on her phone. Well, that's just not true, ladies and gentlemen, because the detective came back and said, we examined her phone and she had no evidence of criminality on her phone, no pictures, no text messages, no communications, nothing on her phone that showed that she was complicit in Maddie's abuse. And how do we know that he was not telling the truth, in my opinion? Because his follow-up to that definitive statement from that detective was, well, maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was seeing things. That's not what somebody would say if they know what they saw. They'd say, well, I don't know what your tests tell you, but I could tell you I saw it with my own eyes, and they would describe the picture down to a T. But how terrible. All right. So that's what I said at the time. And when I spoke to him behind the scenes, and this is the stuff they wanted to say on air. So it's not like I'm, there's some things we spoke about that I'm not going to speak about, because that was just our conversations. And some conversations or some parts of conversations should remain private, right? I can tell you they didn't tell me anything probative that I'd need to report to the Kissimmee Police Department or the Orange County, the Osceola County Sheriff's Department. Not at all, right? But the explanation that they gave here to where did they do this interview again? I forgot. Anybody in the chat? What was it? Because Jay for Justice is reacting to another channel. What was the name of that channel? With the psychologist's husband or something like that? I never really got around to it. Hidden True Crime. And I'm not saying that with no shade. You got to be careful on YouTube, because you speak about any creator and it's like, oh, you throwing shade? I'm not throwing shade. I can't watch every channel. I'm only one person. I can't watch every single channel. I tell you guys who my favorites are, and then that's it. I can't watch every channel. So yeah, so Hidden True Crime. I would definitely encourage people to go watch that channel to watch the video, whatever. So anyway, so what I did, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, that video that I showed you was 7 weeks ago, I believe. Let me go back here. Let me see when I posted that one. Oh, it was 2 weeks ago. No, this can't be 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. Bottom line is, it was 2 weeks ago, I guess. And when we spoke behind the scenes, that's what I was going to say. I got my train of thought back. When we spoke behind the scenes, and as I said, I'm not going to share everything that we spoke about, but this is what he was planning on saying when we did our interview, because I questioned him about this. And this was one of the reasons why he contacted me, is he wanted to clarify this statement. And what he says on Hidden True Crime is exactly what he told me. And let's see if he ends up going into that detail. Let's listen a little bit more.
Blit. He's saying it. Let's
go back a little bit.
In graphic detail what that image was. 5 months later, I'm thinking throughout that time that she had the opportunity to maybe grab a photo of that, and because once you describe that to me, I can't get it out of my mind. It becomes ingrained and printed.
Right. So what he's saying is that he was mistaken. This is the same thing he told me. This is also the same thing that he's telling Hidden True Crime, that he was mistaken in that Jen described the photo in such great detail to him that I guess a month or two after this conversation happened with him and Jen, he now believed that he actually saw a physical, photographical representation of what Jen was describing to him. I still don't believe it. Listen, I spoke to the Stearns, well, Chris Stearns. I didn't speak to his wife via telephone and through email. And nobody should have any ill will towards these people because they're just old folks, man, just trying to live their life. At this point, I don't believe that they had anything whatsoever to do with the planning or execution of the essaying or the unaliving of Madeline Soto. I don't think they had anything to do with it. I think ideally they'd love to just be living their best life, doing what they do, taking care of their home, going on cruises. I don't know if they ever went on a cruise, but that's something old people do, go on a cruise. And crocheting, and now I'm stereotyping now, and living their best life. And Chris trying to stay busy by continuing to work in his real estate job, even though he probably should have been retired 5 years prior. But some people just don't want to be stuck at home doing nothing. They had nothing to do with what their son did. But you're making statements that don't make sense. And I got to say, I just can't believe that explanation. Now, I can't look in that man's heart. And I had an opportunity to get him on the show and try and figure this out. I chose not to. That's my choice. But I just can't believe this explanation. So although I don't believe that they had anything to do with what happened, with what their son did, and I don't think that anybody should bother these people. And you guys see, I've even talked about them less because I've come to that realization, like, you know what? They're saying crazy things that I don't agree with, but I don't want to keep bringing them in the forefront and have these psychopaths that exist in the world go harass them because people keep talking about them. But at the same time, I cover true crime, I cover the news, and you are a part of the news, so I'm going to cover it. But when your explanation is that I heard this graphic description of this child being abused, and so therefore, some way, somehow, my brain made me believe that I actually saw the photo. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. There is just so much of a big difference between seeing something and hearing something. Now, if there's a child who's being told something from a very young age, like I had a case where a mentally ill mother constantly tells her child that the child is being essayed. And the child is not being essayed, but the mother is mentally ill. She keeps telling the child this. Well, this child is like 4 or 5 years old. This is real story here. Then that is something that's possible where that child can now grow up and be, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20 years old and believe that they were essayed because they were constantly told that throughout their life growing up, even though it didn't happen. But for an adult who's, in their 60s and in their 70s, really, I think it's 70 years old on a dot, to have a conversation with somebody in a car and then a month later believe that they saw something. Now, I think what the real motive is that, as I believed in these previous videos and even what I said in that video further along, if we played more of it, I just felt like they don't like Jen. Nobody likes Jen. Welcome to the club. We all hate Jen. And you know what? Hate is such a strong word. We don't hate Jen. We don't know her personally. Big shout out to Ivan Villanami, Villamil. Next time you come on the show, Ivan, please tell me how to say your last name. Ivan with 199 Super 6 says, same go on a cruise instead of sending him money. I hear you. He's saying they should go on a cruise instead of sending thousands of dollars to their son. I hear you. That's funny. So, I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with this to be the most respectful possible. It's tricky. All right, whatever. I'll just run with it anyway. I hope I'm naturally respectful anyway, so it is what it is. It's not something I have to sit here and think for like 5 hours for. So, like I said, hate is a strong word. We don't hate Jen Soto. We just recognize that whether she's guilty of something or not, because we don't have any true evidence that she's guilty of anything. But whether she's guilty of something or not, we recognize that she was a terrible mother. So I believe that the Sterns don't like Jen, and I believe in their naivete that they somehow believe that Jen could have helped Stefan make better decisions to not get into the trouble that he got into. Like, I kind of believe that they blame Jen for the things that Stefan did. To a certain extent. This is my belief. I have no evidence. This is not coming out of any conversations I may have had with these people. This is just my belief. I just feel like they feel like, well, if Jen was a better mother and protected her daughter better, then my son would not have had the opportunity of doing this, which is, to me, a really crazy way of looking at it, because at the end of the day, Stefan should have had the wherewithal, the self-constraint, and the morals to not want to do that to a child. Really, at the end of the day, the blame truly lies with Stefan Sterns. But we could look at Jen Soto and say, well, your inability to be a good parent is kind of what helped make this happen, or at least not stop. I don't think nothing could have stopped it from happening. Like, let's be serious here, people. You're in a relationship with a person, you live with a person. Like, if you're in a relationship with a guy, he's just your boyfriend, and you have children, and he doesn't live with you, then you should not be leaving him alone with your child. But if you've moved the guy in, there's nobody in this chat who's going to say, well, I would never leave him with the child alone to go to the corner store, to go to the supermarket. Well, if that's the case, you should not have let this man live with you. If you can't trust him to leave him with the child so you could go shopping at the supermarket. So there's no way that Jen Soto could have stopped this from happening, because she could have said, all right, I'm going to put gas in my car so I can go to work tomorrow morning. And hey, you know, Maddie, you want to come? No, I'm playing iPad, you know? And then she'd be like, all right, I'll be right back. You know, you mind watching, just keeping an eye on her for a couple of minutes while I go to the gas station? There's nobody in this room who wouldn't have done that. And while you're at the gas station for 15 minutes, he could be abusing the child. The problem is, when you're a bad mother like Jen, you don't catch it for 5 years. You don't catch it for 5 years. You don't catch it until the very moment that your child dies. That's the problem. That's the issue that we're having. So we don't hate Jen Soto. We just think that she's such a negligent mother that she should be tarred and feathered to. Maybe not tarred and feathered, but we think that she should be called out. No violence, nothing against this woman, please. We think she should be called out. And that's what we do. We call her out. We absolutely call her out. So I think that the Sterns hate her so much that they kind of blame her for what their son did. And at the end of the day, the only person who deserves being blamed is Stefan Sterns. All right. So I wanted to that caught my eye, because when I watched this, because I didn't watch the video, I wanted to watch it. I was like, yo, I got to go watch this. I saw like a tiny piece of it, but I never really got around to watching the whole thing. And, you know, Jay for Justice was covering it, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, they're talking about me. At least I think they are. I could be wrong. But based off of what I see here, and based off of what I said, And based off of the conversation that we had, because he said, listen, I want to reach out to you because I want to clarify. And he's like, I want to clarify. And this is one of the things I want to clarify. I want to clarify when you said that I was lying about seeing the photo. I want to clarify why I said I saw the photo. So that leads me to believe that this was something that was in contention and this was something that I said. And, I just got to say, hey, you know what? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. But do I believe it? Nah, I just don't feel like how that could be feasible, considering that I'm viewing these people as competent individuals, as mentally stable, competent individuals. And that's just not something that somebody who does not suffer from mental illness would mistake. It is what it is.